This is Nereid Atlas, where global stories tend to become more complicated the closer you look at them. I'm Lukas. Over the last 2 days, Israel's military prosecutors said they're opening criminal investigations into 2 high-profile incidents from the war in Gaza. The car carrying Hind Rajab, which the army now acknowledges its forces fired on, and the deaths of Gaza rescue workers who tried to reach her. At the same time, other wartime incident files are being closed without charges. It matters because these decisions will define whether families see accountability and whether the military's own system is trusted in the middle of a war. And, depending on which reports you encountered, this moment can read as a step toward justice or as another dead end. We worked through 13 articles from 13 outlets across 12 countries, TV networks, newspapers, and a wire service, including both state-aligned and independent media, published between August 19th and 20th, 2026. Put side by side, the picture gets more complicated. Elena's been tracing that, and she's here to take us deeper. Nereid Atlas, Synthetic Voices, Real Analysis. They admitted and they closed. And depending on what you read, that's either justice starting or justice dodged.
The tension is right there. One Israeli outlet says the army closed its probe into the World Central Kitchen strike, but the inquiry into Hind Rajab's killing is still ongoing, with further examination on the deaths of 15 rescue workers and other cases dismissed. That's a system making calls, case by case.
That reads like triage, a prosecutor's desk. This one goes forward, this one doesn't.
And because it's framed as procedural, a listener might feel, okay, there's a process that weighs evidence and moves on. It casts the institution as responsible. Even if you don't love every decision, it looks like the gears turn.
Unless you caught the other framing, that the army now admits its soldiers opened fire on the car carrying 5-year-old Hind Rajab and her family, after previously denying troops were even there. That's a very different first impression.
The Guardian puts it like that: admission after earlier denials and a criminal investigation ordered. That framing turns the same process into a course correction, or an about-face under pressure.
So if that's what you see first, you might feel, not relief, but suspicion. Like, what changed?
Scale can tilt perception too. A German broadcaster notes the decision to investigate came after reviewing 150 incidents involving troops' conduct. To some ears, that number signals thoroughness. To others, it sounds like a funnel. Many cases enter, very few emerge with accountability.
Same number, 2 gut reactions. Either they're taking this seriously or they're bulk processing tragedy.
And then there's the long shadow. Several reports stress that internal probes like these rarely lead to convictions. If that's your anchor point, you read criminal investigation and hear dead end.
You're saying a reasonable person can land on either side just from which sentence they meet first.
Yes. If you start with criminal probes opened, it sounds like accountability beginning. If instead your first line is admitted after denying, and these things rarely lead to convictions, it feels like reputational cleanup.
Where do the victims and the responders fit into these framings? Do they show up as people or as case names?
When the Associated Press, via a Canadian paper, says the military will launch criminal investigations into Hind Rajab and 15 paramedics, it foregrounds who was killed: a 5-year-old, her family, and 15 people sent to save lives. That human detail makes process feel morally heavier.
And it also changes who looks threatened inside the narrative. In one version, the system is threatened by the fog of war and hard decisions. In the other, families and aid workers are threatened by the same system.
Exactly. And neither conclusion is irrational. They're responses to what's emphasized and what's left mute.
So two colleagues at the same office coffee machine. One read about ongoing inquiries and a 150-case review. The other read about an admission after denials and rare convictions. They're not arguing facts. They're arguing the shape of the story in their heads.
And both shapes feel coherent. Until they meet.
There's another fork I keep circling. Which deaths get investigated and which get closed? That choice teaches people what to believe about motives.
The Israeli report we mentioned makes that explicit. Some cases proceed, others are dismissed. When that sits next to the admission about Hind Rajab's car, the contrast invites interpretation, either principled sorting or selective accountability.
And outside Israel, some outlets push the second reading. One Russian state-backed site says Israel acknowledged killing Hind but refused to pursue a probe into the World Central Kitchen strike, and highlights Australia summoning the ambassador over it.
That telling stacks the weight on refusal and diplomatic backlash. It's the same set of decisions, but the center of gravity moves from investigations opened to impunity signaled.
To someone encountering that, the word internal starts to feel like the problem, not the safeguard.
And it is internal. Multiple outlets describe these as military-run criminal investigations. Another paper in Asia even names the unit, a fact-finding and assessment mechanism, and notes decisions covered 5 high-profile incidents. For some listeners, that suggests professionalization. For others, it reinforces the worry. Can an institution credibly police itself on matters that implicate its own conduct?
The paradox is rough. If you're inside the system, you probably want to see procedure as integrity. If you're outside it, or grieving because of it, procedure can sound like delay.
And timing matters. A Canadian broadcaster places the second case, 15 emergency and aid workers, in March 2025, months after Hind's killing. The lag invites a reasonable fear that the longer it takes, the less likely it is to end in anything beyond a report.
And reports don't bury the dead or charge the living.
The Guardian layers one more element by recalling earlier denials and a UN description of a pervasive climate of impunity. You don't have to adopt that language to feel how it primes skepticism about outcomes.
Meanwhile, if you mostly read the Israeli legal updates, you come away feeling the opposite. The military advocate general is sifting evidence, closing some files, escalating others. That's what rule of law looks like from within its own paperwork.
Same paperwork, different intuition. One listener sees due diligence, another sees a stage where the ending is almost always the same.
What I keep hearing under all of it is the 5-year-old's name. The procedural voice makes it sound like a case file. The skeptical voice makes it sound like a child.
And our minds will reach for the frame that feels truest to how justice should sound. That's not gullibility. It's how humans navigate uncertainty when the facts arrive as headlines in different keys.
So where does that leave two decent people at that coffee machine?
Maybe with one honest question instead of a fight. What would you need to see, in this system or any other, to believe the word investigation means justice here?
And what if the answer is different for both of us, before we've even read the same story?